Hey guys, Daniel here. This is another video, and in this video, I am lucky enough to sit down with the writer and artist behind upcoming Image comic book series, which is about vampire. It's Bloodstained Tea, and I'm lucky enough to sit down with Christian Ward and Patric Reynolds. I'm so excited to discuss this. If you've been anywhere on Twitter, you've probably seen this comic announced, or it looks like it's going to be fantastic. And yeah, like I said, all it took was a ton of blackmail to get both of these creators on. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming on. And is this the first time you guys have ever spoken? Just
no. Second time.
Second time. When have you guys chatted before? If there's another interview, I'm going to be devastated.
No. 2 days ago, we kind of felt like we needed to break the ice before we did it live in front of an audience, just to make sure we've been getting on great, I have to say. But obviously, we wanted to make sure that chemistry kind of carried over so that we could,
of course,
make sure that it's all fine.
That chemistry resulted in like an 8-hour conversation that made it so Christian couldn't finish his work, and so I'm really
now
sorry.
late because of Patric. I'm now missing deadlines because of Patric. Thank you.
You're doing it because you don't want to do any work, so you're trying to get him to just stay back and write in the script, so maybe you'll get away with it. That's it.
I'm also not known for my brevity in any way, shape, or form. I'm like I'm inside my room so much that when any human contact, I just get super excited. I'm like, there's people outside. Wow. Like, I get reminded that I'm a human being again. And so I tend to overdo it. So Christian, I'm sorry. I hope you got your work done. Tell your editor it's my fault.
That's exactly what you need for when you're doing an interview. I can just sit back and let you guys talk, and that'll be, my longest video, 8 hours long of just the both of you talking. Every time I try and speak, there's just an interruption. That sounds brilliant, so everyone who's not aware, Bloodstained Tea, like I just said at the start, it's a hit new comic book series coming from Image. I think it's sometime soon. But so Christian, what can you tell us about Bloodstained Tea for anyone watching who isn't aware? Your dog makes a special appearance. Brilliant. That's all I needed from this interview.
You're famous. You are.
It's not every day you get to be on a huge prestigious YouTube channel such as myself. If I do say so, I'll decide not to charge your dog out of the kindness of my heart. I'll let your dog keep her money. Like, what am I if not generous?
George's like, been there, done that. I'm Twitter famous anyway, so
just indifferent. But so Christian, what can you tell everyone about Bloodstained Tea? Nothing, just nothing.
Nothing at all.
Nothing about the comic.
Vampires. Okay, I'll tell you what I can tell you. Okay, so I can tell you this. It's about vampires.
Yeah.
It's a love letter to vampire lore. From Bram Stoker's Dracula to Blade, the whole thing. We love it all. Yeah. And Bloodstained Tea is going to be a love letter to every element that makes vampires cool. And it's wrapped up in a seedy crime pulpy story that follows a character called Atticus Sloane, who's a vampire.
Yeah.
And he's found a really unusual way to make money. And that's to bite you and turn you into a vampire for money, and then 10% of all future earnings of whatever you do. And it's about Atticus's journey, kind of doing this seedy job, and the kind of society that he kind of has been kicked out of, which is a kind of secret society that secretly pull the strings of human civilization, and they're kind of billionaires, but they're also vampires. So it's a little bit political. In a time where billionaires are kind of racing to fly to the moon and not pay their taxes, we're getting angry.
You looked at tax evading billionaires and you said, but what if they were vampires?
Well, they are.
Well, what if they were just
honest?
Who they were? What are they just themselves? I mean,
Have we ever seen Jeff Bezos eat garlic bread? It's these type of questions that really make the comic book series better.
I mean, exactly. I mean, he's got a little bit of about
spin-off.
He really has.
Spin-off. Yeah, I'm keeping that. I'm trademarking it already. We're one down. I already have my free garlic.
I'm doing photo reference in my head right now. I'm like,
you see the endless possibility. But so Patric, how were you approached about this? Did Christian kidnap some of your family members as well, or what kind of
I was if I remember, Christian, you can correct me on this if I'm wrong, but this was like 2020, so this was right in the middle of right when the pandemic was starting to happen, and I had nothing to do but like hang out with my dog and watch reruns of Full House and the Vampire Diaries, and just do commissions for, to sort of supplement my income that wasn't there. And I think Christian we were friends we were following each other on Twitter, but if I remember correctly, like you dropped me an email or a DM first, and it was like a DM, and it was very short. It's like, hey, I really like your work, and do you want to you want to talk and think about possibilities. And before I start, and I did like a backflip. And as soon as I got myself out of that position, because I'm 43 now, I needed help. But like I go to my girlfriend, I'm like, Christian Ward is interested in working. She's like, calm down, don't swear, be very nice. If you want me to type the email for you, I will. But just say thank you and then start the conversation. Like, okay. And so I was like, hey, Christian, how thanks for looking me up, and like, what do you I would love to work with you because because you're Christian freaking Ward, and what kind of I'd love to talk ideas. And from then Christian sent me some emails about a few ideas that he had, and the one for Bloodstained Teeth was definitely one of them. And it was basically like the pitch that Christian just shared with you, but also with David Bowie, kind of like sort of stylizing everything. And I was like, okay, you had me at David Bowie, like, and there's something about vampires, so let's move forward now. So like, it was just, it made a lot of sense to me, because not just for like vampires, but the way that like it was a new spin, or not even a new spin. It was a new way of introducing vampires and like making it interesting. And there's so much vampire stuff out there right now. My girlfriend literally just finished watching the entire discography of Vampire Diaries. And so there's just so much of that out there. But then, he turned into like, a societal commentary on like, money, and like how people are using it to get ahead instead of like being afraid of it, so there's a different kind of fear that's perpetuating there. It's like the fear of it's greed this time. And when billionaires are literally making laws and deciding what we can watch for news on our television, I'm like, yeah, that sounds awesome. And also getting to draw David Bowie suits sounds really cool too. So I was hooked pretty much from like, hey, do you want to work together? So, and then the vampire stuff was just sort of icing on the cupcake there. So, and then immediately he thought he sent me some character breakdowns here. Atticus Sloane is our main character. And I thought, Atticus Sloane, ooh, what a good name. It's like an Agatha Christie vampire mixed with like a glam rock band. I'm like, okay. And so I started looking up like
you would expect him to be the vampire though. If there was some dude called Atticus Sloane rocking around, you'd be like, well, if there was a vampire, monk, is it Jeffrey or is it Atticus? No?
Yeah. But definitely a lot more glamorous than like Jerry or Ralph or something. I mean, Atticus is, the name Atticus sounds like a vampire, but the Sloane kind of like sleeks it down and kind of glams it up a little bit. So it sounds like it could be like like a bass player for Blondie or something. It sounds there's a little bit of a 70s element just to that name alone. I'm really super into like names of characters. Like I thought like if I had I always think that characters have to be named very carefully. Not like Luke Skywalker kind of like, in your like deliberate, but like there's got to be a little like poetry to the name. And I remember liking Atticus Sloane as a name. And I thought, okay, you're right. And then I started looking at David Bowie's Thin White Duke phase, with the slick back hair and like the black vest and the white shirt and the contrast just visually of that. And we started just tossing sketches back and forth, and I really liked, the David Bowie aspect, but like but we wanted something at least a little bit different, so we're not just doing David Bowie with vampire teeth, Yeah. And so Christian offered Robert Pattinson maybe a little bit with like, there's something in his eyes that makes him a little more vulnerable, And so we started developing characters based on that, and then. His Atticus's friend Joey is sort of like the polar opposite, where he's like Owen Wilson, but like, if you were someone's conscience. So, and then we started developing characters that way. But speaking of talking way too much, there we go.
And that's how we met.
That's exactly what we need here, But absolutely. So, Christian, have you kind of had this bubbling in your head for a while, just this vampire idea, or did this only come to you in maybe recently enough, or did you have this in your mind a while?
I would say this is because obviously I'm an artist first, and I've kind of started writing the last couple of years. But the kind of I've always wanted to be a solo creator, so I write and draw stories, and I've just been lucky enough that I've been kind of collaborating with people who I can't say no to. So for the last 10 years, I've been like, okay, Matt Faction, I'll do a book.
I'll do it. Fine. If you twist my arm,
go on then. Oh, Willow Wilson, go on then. I'll do a book with you. Do you know what I mean? So, Jason Allen, sure, I'll do some Phil. Do you know? So it's like every year I've been okay. This is the year I'm going to write the stories that I've had in my head. And a lot of these stories have literally been in my head for 5 years or so, and I've been okay. This is what I'm going to do, and then. Basically about 2.5 years ago, I came to the realization that if I wait for me as an artist to write a story and to illustrate it, it's going to be, I'll never do it because I'll always be worried about jumping on my own, and I'll always be like, well, as a writer, I can't compare to G. Willow Wilson or Matt Faction or any of the other amazing writers I've worked with. So that's when I kind of took the leap, and I did Machine Gun Wizards with Sammy Cavella. Sorry, Sammy. I don't know his name out loud. Yeah, and then that sort of said, and I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed being the writer. You know, as an artist, I enjoyed kind of being on the other side of the fence. You know, I think it's quite cool because. I mean, Patrick will be able to tell you more about this. So I kind of feel that I knew what it was like to be an artist, and I knew what scripts were like, and I knew what when I read a script, not that I necessarily, because I've worked with great people, but like I know the sort of thing that would annoy me in a script, or I would find difficult in a script or frustrating. So I felt like, well, that gives me I felt like I could be a good writer for an artist.
Yeah.
And so he very much is. Everyone, there's even like little notes in the script where Christian says, Patrick, don't worry about showing this just yet, or you can reuse this if you need to. But every script that I read from Christian, he definitely is keeping me in mind, which I very much appreciate. I'm not saying that writers don't do that. I mean, like Chris Roberson, when I work with him on Hellboy, is very, very good at that. He writes for the artists very well, but Christian also knows like how much work it's going to be for the artist, and like, but with keeping in mind though, like how we still need to tell a story, and there's still stuff we still need to have in there. But he's very good at like getting me to sort of streamline myself because I don't do that very well. But anyway, sorry to interject, Christian, but go ahead.
That's good. You can say nice things about me. You can interject whenever you want.
You're just so kind and brilliant, and like
carry on. Yeah, the checks in the mail. So I knew I wanted to do it again. Like it was just nice to do, and there's something really magical as with like a writer's hat on when you write something and you send it to an artist, particularly an artist as talented as Sammy and Patrick are, and they send it back, and you're looking at the words. And the thing is, I mean, I don't know, I can't speak for other writers, but obviously as an artist, when I'm writing it, I'm also drawing it. So I'm working out, okay, that's how big that panel will be. That's how big that panel, and that's where there's so I can kind of visualize, that page will work, and there's enough space on that page to tell the story how we want it. But even if I don't want to be too controlling in the script. So there's always, artists need to do what they do, and it's not for me to be like, this is how I do it. I want the artist to do it their way. So it's always magical to get the pages back and be surprised by it. So in answer to your question from about an hour ago, it's been in my head for Bloodstained 2 has been in my head for about 2.5 years. But initially I was going to draw it because I love it. I really love the story. And it's been there for a while. And the thing was, the more I kind of thought about it, the more I was like, I'm not going to sell it in the way that it needs to be sold. I'm not the right artist for it. It might look cool. It might look kind of like maybe a bit more ethereal, a bit more kind of like, but it needed to be grand because it was a commentary on our world and like stuff that's going on and being a bit political and like any good horror is. I just felt that it needed somebody that brought a realism to their work and a drama. And I wanted it to be, I didn't want it to look like a horror. I wanted it to look like a crime book. And I just, I got quite friendly with Chris Cantwell, who had just done a book called The Mask.
Yes, yeah.
And I remember just looking at the pages, and it just like a light bulb went off. And I was talking to Chris, and I said, you know, what's Patric like to work with? And he said, he's terrible. I hate him. So anyway,
you wouldn't be wrong.
That's fair.
Top-notch scumbag.
You're just so self-deprecating. Yeah, that's fair. I'm like that. That's okay.
But Chris was, you know, he really spoke Patric's kind of praises and was just like, he's great, you know. And so I think that's when I reached out to sort of Patric after I sort of like checked him out, made sure he was okay. Yeah.
You had a private investigator just take pictures outside of his house.
Like,
wouldn't be the first time, you know. I mean,
who's that outside? It's probably one of my collaborators just looking for something.
So that's how it worked. I'm yet to regret it. Which is the best thing I can say.
No pressure.
If you do a good job drawing issue 6, well then, you know.
I mean, issue
I gotta
6,
go get some drawing done, guys.
So. Although I have got to tell you something. When you were talking about Atticus Sloane is a good name for a vampire, it's not like Jeff. I'm not making this up. In issue 6, there's a vampire called Jeff. I swear. You'll meet Jeff. Patric hasn't met Jeff yet. But
I think Jeff, he'd probably be a nice vampire. He's probably misunderstood of all the vampires. I think Jeff sounds like a brilliant
Works
character.
At like Whole Foods or something, you know?
Yeah, quite close, but I need to be.
My name's Jeff. I'm a business accountant during the day, and by night I feast on people. It's like, does that have the same gravitas when you say you're an accountant of the day? But so Patric, we just touched on there, you know, and especially Christian, you went into it. You wanted this to be more of like a crime book, and like you look at the previews. And like, I think it looks very street level. I don't know. I think it has that really nice feel to it. So Patric, you inside your like comfort zone drawing Bloodstained Tea? Is this kind of where you excel? You think in these kind of street level crime books?
I don't know if I excel at anything really, but like I really think
you've killed Christian.
I think and also I'm also like pathologically self-deprecating, and so like there I need to be.
I'm working on that. I'm working on that. I'm not going to let him get away with that.
I'm a work in progress, I've found. But you know, that's I guess that's all what I've been asked to do, you know. And like I started off doing like my first job was my second job actually was doing an Ape Sapien one shot. You know, and I, you know, not only do I look like Ape Sapien, but I can relate to his hesitation. You know, there's a lot of great human qualities to Ape Sapien, even though he's a fish man. Yeah. And that first story was about the haunted. It's called The Haunted Boy, and it was about the story of a boy being haunted by the death of his friend, or a family being haunted by the death of their son. I'm sorry, yes. And it was a very, very contained, like almost like a it was very like a one act play. You know, like it was very contained on one stage and everything, and you know, and there was a lake where the ghost was, you know, and that was how I got started. And then I started getting more stuff like that. And I got a Serenity one shot, which is again about a character of Wash, who had at that point in the story had died in the movie. Spoiler alert. And then so even though it was sci-fi, like there was still that element of loss and what happens when, you know, characters lose and how they deal with that. And then the next book I got was I believe it was Let Me In, and that also has to do with that also has to do with vampires, of course. It was based on the American version of Let the Right One In, which I believe is one of my favorite vampire stories ever told. The Swedish version, the American version was great too, but there was this element of like loss and this element and so I think like it was all of these different genres are coming together. They sort of coalesce around this element of loss, you know, to me. And I think like maybe I like to think that like maybe that was probably the reason why I kept getting jobs like that, because I was interested in what the characters were interested in and how they get better, you know, and how they sort of try to put themselves back together after something happens.
Yeah.
You know, and how they try to you know, go on with their lives when they're missing something, you know. And so even though that's the best horror movies I've ever seen, zombie movies all coalesce around something bigger than like, you know, the monster or the zombie or the horror, you know. And so I'm interested in sort of like using the genre as a way into looking at like what people have to deal with. You know, like even the Alien series that I did, it was just about this one character alone trying to deal with a new environment who didn't fit in anywhere. And I'm like, that's kind of me since junior high. This kind of weirdo who never really fit in, you know, but like still being amazed at the world around him and trying to communicate his amazement to other people. You know, and so like I sort of look at Bloodstained Teeth like that. Like even though there's vampires and they're you know, it's seedy vampire noir and everything like that, but there are characters there that I still very much care about, even though they could not be vampires and I would still care about them a great deal. And so when I draw them, you know, I think about that. That's why I use real people, is because like I can't make that up. I can't make that look on their face when they see their friend dying or something, for example. Or when I see like, you know, their conscience starting to turn on an event, like I can't make that up. I need a person to do that. And so that's why I sort of gravitate toward realism, is because like, you know, the genre is, you know, an excuse to actually make that realism kind of be exposed in stark relief. Yeah. If that makes any sense. You know, it puts that pressure on characters to shine.
Yeah, definitely. And so you're after giving a beautiful answer. I feel very bad about the next question I'm going to ask because it's so stupid. But if you, Christian, if you could be a vampire, would you be a vampire? Would you take that opportunity? No, you wouldn't. You would, but
not based on what we put them through.
You wouldn't take that opportunity, no. But you could turn. It depends on what rules you follow as a vampire, I guess. It's like
I think so, because I mean it's you know, I mean, particularly with the story we're telling, it's not a good thing, and it's, I mean, it's hard to go into too much, but it doesn't work out for anyone.
But if I could turn into a bat, I'd be like, yeah, it's kind of worse though. Is it? Yeah, maybe I'll combust and just explode. But on the other hand, there's like that aspect. That's why I was recently interviewing someone. We talked about like 10,000 like euro, there's dollars to get turned into a vampire. It's like, but who has that money? Like comic book writers. I was seeing someone like I was interviewing an artist. They said, I think the reason comic book creators don't buy cocaine is just because they can't afford it.
Yeah,
like, that's just the same for turning into a vampire. It's like
so.
Afford it. So yeah, cocaine, vampires, and vampires named Jeff doesn't get any better than that. Patrick, would you become a vampire?
I don't want to check it out, you know, but if I could like. Yeah, I mean, like I have the skin tone for it, so like, why not? But I there's the thing. I think it's a very interesting question because, like, I think, you know, we have to, in our story, we have to sort of like show why it's still appealing, even though like I think most people would say I wouldn't want to be a vampire and live forever. I mean, that sucks. Yeah, you know. But there's got to be something appealing to it, and there's got to be something that makes people want to do that. Like getting rich, yes, everybody wants, you know, of course, but also like, why else? There's other things in there too. And so like, to answer your question, I wouldn't, but like
but there's a part of you that could be swayed. You're like, well
I want to go around, I want to hang out with one and like film what's going on, you know. I want to like take a GoPro and go like, what are you gonna do tonight, you know, like I want to see what happens then, you know. I wouldn't want to know. I just, there's I guess, and the main reason, of course, is, you know, I just wouldn't want to see everybody that I love pass away around me, you know, like, but to answer your question, probably not, but maybe I'm vamp curious, I think I would say.
Perfect answer. I take it up and then deal with the consequences later, because there is that aspect of the people you love dying. But then there's the aspect of like the people you hate dying, and you're like, yeah, well, your granny's dead. That's tough for you. I'm still here. I'm gonna outlive your whole family tree. Sucks for you. I'm not dead. So yeah, maybe I'm not the best person to ask in terms of turning into a vampire. But yeah, Christian, let me ask you this. You know, a lot of, you know, Star Wars, George Lucas said at its core is a tale about family. What do you think Bloodstained Tea at its core? What do you think is that one theme or just main thing you explore in Bloodstained Tea? What do you think it is at its core?
Humanity.
Humanity. Yeah, I think most vampires' tales or just horror tales in general follow that. So yeah, that's an interesting point. But you think humanity is the core of Bloodstained Tea?
100%. Yeah, it's I mean it's about it's about being altruistic and you know, and about being a vampire is quite a selfish act, because you know you drink other people, you don't care about other people, you feed yourself. And the act of becoming a vampire, as we've just, you know, illustrated with our kind of jokes, you know, you're not thinking about your family, your friends. It's very selfish. And so what I wanted to look at is in a society full of selfish people, and not everyone is selfish, of course, but you know, there are selfish people in society. What does it take to turn the most selfish person into, and you know, what will flick the switch and that person and make them not selfish? And so that's what we're kind of exploring. You know, the humanity of self, and the humanity of others, and why it's important that, you know, especially what we've all been through for the last 2 years, it's we have succeeded when we've been together, and we're failing when we're apart. And, you know, and I think that's what the book's about.
Yeah, absolutely. You just put it perfectly there. And so, like, and I think most horror tales are just monster tales in general. Like, as great as it is to have that, you know, scare aspect, there is some heart to it, or there is some theme, or just main rule that they follow, and you see that a lot. But so, just with the characters, like, they all look so, you know, unique and interesting. Patrick, did you do the character designs, or was this something that you and Christian worked on together, or?
I mean, I did. You know, I initially started with the characters. Christian, you know, provided the springboard for that. He was like, this, I imagine, like, you know, there's a David Bowie-ness element to this, you know, and then
David Bowie and vampires. That's literally all you need. You could just say,
come on, like, that's chocolate and peanut butter to me. Like, are you kidding me? But I would research David Bowie, you know, and
for research. You were just doing it anyway. You didn't care. For research. I'm listening to music for work, obviously. So
you would be amazed at what I got away with when I was doing research. Like, I'm playing Hades for research, I promise.
I'm watching all the Blade films in order for research. It's my artistic interpretation. You wouldn't understand. Get out. You wouldn't understand.
I'm playing Super Mario RPG for research. It makes sense. Like,
is Mario not a vampire? Has that been proven canon? We don't know.
Come on, that's a whole different podcast. I want to be on that.
Three of us would go on. No, we can just screw Bloodstained. We'll just talk about whether or not Mario is a vampire. There you go.
I'm surprised Christian isn't writing down these ideas for like more issues. Like, but like Christian would provide very basic descriptions. Like, you know, there's a character named Joey, and he's like, he's more like a surfer dude with Owen Wilson's hair, but he's also a vampire. And like, okay, so he's kind of like more relaxed with who he is. You know, he doesn't have to like put on like a persona like Atticus sort of does. And so like there's a certain posture that character has, you know. And so I research Owen Wilson's hair, of course, but then I'd be like, okay, maybe I'm just looking for a guy who's sort of, you know, just the way a character stands, you know. And that's sort of like not necessarily a celebrity that I would think about. It's more of a person, like an actual person that I would think about. I just kept sort of sending designs back and forth, and sometimes they were too close to David Bowie, sometimes they were too close to Robert Pattinson, and so like I would, you know, try to like try to find, you know, a medium of the two, you know. And so they were all, I mean, all of these character designs were done, of course, with collaboration with Christian. Like, you know, I just you know, it's my job to visually realize Christian's ideas, you know. And, you know, that's part of the challenge that I love, is like, say, okay, a person's name is Atticus Sloane. There's something slim, like a dagger to that guy, you know, and there's something like a little bit, maybe like he's maybe a little bent toward the wind a little bit, you know, but he's got really pointy shoes or something. You know, there's something like I like personifying words because that's my job, right? So it was basically like, to answer your question, it was basically, you know, it was collaborative, you know, but like there's another character named Beverly, and but she becomes a certain kind of character in the story. So I was like, okay, what actresses sort of embody that character a little bit, you know, like for example, Regina King in Watchmen, you know, there's a confidence to her. Okay, she's confident. You know, why is she confident? It's the way she holds herself, you know, and not just the leather jacket that she wears, but the way she holds herself too. And so like, you know, when I think about character design, you know, I think about like also not just what they're wearing, you know, but also like how they carry themselves too. But basically, you know, all of that was just to like, you know, I mean, I basically just drew what Christian thought was getting closer to the thing we were looking for, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know if like I definitely would not say that I came up with it on my own. I mean, it was every part of this process is collaborative, you know. Yeah. So I just was sort of like throwing darts until I think it made sense for everybody, everybody's bullseye. You know, if that makes any sense. So.
Yeah, definitely. And so all of this talk, actually, this has me fascinated. Let me ask you this, Christian, do these vampires in this world follow the same kind of rules as like we all consider vampires? Like, wouldn't stay kill you? Do they not like garlic bread? Do they follow those same type of rules? Or can you not? You can't tell us that. It could be anything. We'll have to wait and see. But you're telling. Okay, but
all I can say is that everybody that has read this book has, I mean, we've had like somebody read it somebody who's quite important, I can't really say much, but somebody who's quite important got handed this book recently, and their initial response to it was, no more vampires. I'm done with vampires. And then they read the book and they were, okay, I'm on board. So all I can say is that twist.
Oh yeah,
you'll see.
So essentially, you're saying they all love garlic bread. That's the big twist.
That's the twist. Oh,
the real vampires was the friends you made on the way. How many times have I tried this stuff? Spoiled it.
I thought I was being so smart.
I'm just gonna no, but it happened. You like the point of Watchmen, we all know, is garlic bread. When it comes full circle, now you see that, and I think garlic bread just comes up, and like is there really any story that doesn't bring up garlic bread? No, not any good stories anyway. But yeah, there you go.
I'm hungry.
Yeah. For vampires, right? Let me ask you: if you had to do a book, right, with any other ghoul, any other monster, banshee, anything like that, who is another character besides vampires you'd be interested in exploring? Christian, you can start.
I'm actually working on a Frankenstein thing.
Oh, actually.
So, I mean, it's just the start of one.
Frankenstein, that's not half bad. The real Frankenstein was the friends you made on the way.
Yeah, and there's garlic bread in that one as well.
And there's garlic bread.
He's made out of garlic bread. He doesn't do much, but we get eaten.
Garlic Frankenstein. How could you not think of this, Christian? You think you're some writer, but you didn't come up with garlic Frankenstein. You call yourself writer.
Name my new punk death metal band, actually. We're the garlic Frankenstein. We're the yeah.
That's really the best name. But yeah, Patrick, for you it must be different because it's basically just what's the funnest to draw. But what is another monster or type of horror-esque character you'd like to work on?
Man, my first response is actually Frankenstein as well. But you know, if while we're on the subject, I mean, I think monster. You know, I think this is weird, but Batman's a monster.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I mean, you know, I guess hanging around with kids on rooftops makes you. Yeah. Some words makes you a bit weird, but yeah, that's one word for it, definitely.
Yeah, think about what he's trying to do. I mean, he's trying to be like the nightmare, you know, that makes criminals not want to do crimes, you know. But like, yeah. So I mean, like, and you know, talk about all those other psychological issues as well. I mean, like, you know, there's.
No, he's okay mentally. I think he's fine. Don't we all dress up as a bat and go around beating people up?
Little therapy, you know, maybe he needs to drink some red
wine. That's what Declan Shelby does. Don't let him tell you anything else. He hangs around Dublin and starts beating up people. Okay, he does that. I know you guys had him do a cover, but he does that genuinely. I met him at the big, and he just started kicking me for no reason.
Yeah, apparently,
that's Deck. That's fair. I had it coming. Apparently, I looked at him in the eyes, which don't do that next time you see him, right? Because he
That's
can't
how
move.
he does all of his action sequences. He
Yeah.
does them for real. That's what people don't know. Does them for real. He's got photographers snapping it, and he just draws it.
If you read
Beats the
any of his
shit
books
out
and
of
you see
people.
him beating up some kid, you know where that came from. That was
Yeah.
real. It was, but it was his artistic vision, like I said. Like if he needs to go beat up people for his art, that's fair. Who am I to question it? But yeah, so on the topic of just like these books, so I know I think the three biggest image books I've seen put all over social media was Dex one, your guy or Deck Old Dog. Everyone should go pick that up. That comes out sometime in June, I believe. And then Step by Bloody, Step by Cy Spurrier, and so you guys kind of have that tree, and that's some really great selection coming out from Image Comics. So let me ask you this: what's the response been like? Has it been a bit overwhelming just seeing how much people love Bloodstained Teeth?
It's been great. It's
Yeah.
been very, very exciting. There seems to be a genuine buzz. And I think one thing that I've been really excited about is that I've seen when I've kind of gone on Twitter or other social media. I'm not much of a Reddit guy, but I went on Reddit just to sort of see. I wanted to see if there was conversations happening, and there were. And a lot of these conversations were about how people were excited about the book, but they had no idea. They didn't really. It wasn't really based on. They didn't know me from kind of like me as an artist or what I'd done. So, and what that says to me is that it's not just because obviously on Twitter at the moment, I'm just like Bloodstained Teeth, Bloodstained Teeth, Bloodstained Teeth, banging the drum, trying to kind of get it out there. What it says is that people are talking about it, and people are hearing about it from places other than me, which means that people are talking about it, which is fantastic. I mean, I'm as a kind of like UK guy, it can be quite hard to be confident and worry about coming across as being arrogant. But I can say this because I'm proud of the team that we've got.
Yeah.
Patric on art. I mean, we must say something about Heather Moore.
Absolutely, yeah.
And her insane colors. I mean, just
so good.
I mean, the combination of Patric and Heather, in my eyes, is what makes this book really special. I mean, we've got the hook, we've got the art team that's just killer. We've got Hass on letters, just like killing it.
Man, hello.
Oh, he's just, and honestly, I've worked with Hass. He did Machine Gun Wizards, and like I've been pals with Hass before he was even in comics. And this is his. I'm biased, but I think this is his best work. And I think we've got the hook, we've got the art team, and then I believe we've got the story. It's not just a
Heather Antos is the editor.
I know we got a story.
Yes, yeah, and Heather's amazing. So it's just I feel very confident about it because I feel like I can push it to people, and I know they're getting something good. And even if the way that I write doesn't grab people, I know that the art will. I'm very, very excited for it, and I'm going to keep banging that drum.
Yeah, definitely. And like you got some brilliant cover quotes by like angels, like Porn Stack Featured Show, who was so kind, Scott Snyder. And then you had a cover by Declan Shalvey, which is kind of like, but I'll still probably read it. Still might read it.
He's all right.
See how I feel. I just like bringing up Declan just because I know one day he'll just accidentally watch it and you'll see me bad mounting him, and that's all I need. That's all I need, Deck, if you're watching this. But yeah, so Patric, is the response the same for you? Is this kind of overwhelming?
This is my first creator-owned comic that I've been involved with. So I don't. I keep telling Christian, like, I don't know what to compare this to. I really don't. Like, I'm usually told what to do, and then I'm told either whether I'm fired or not after I'm done. It's like I've worked with a bunch of licensed things, and I never have been a part of something where I had so much creative input in. And so and granted, I was talking with Christian about this first time we actually spoke, is like I don't know if I'm doing enough to promote this. I don't usually, I work with Dark Horse a lot, and they do all their stuff, their promotion, stuff like that, and you know, and I'm just sort of along for the ride, you know, and but with this one, like, you know, I've always been like taught to take things with a grain of salt, both like, you know, compliments and like criticisms, you know. And so like the first day when we first announced it on January 20th, like just the amount of people talking about it was kind of overwhelming to me. I've never seen a response like that to anything that I'd ever done, you know, or been involved with, I should say. And so I was wondering, like, you know, in the back of my head, because, you know, I'm wondering, like, is this genuine? You know, I mean, like, are people just trying to, like, you know, is this just part of people trying to, like, you know, like image trying to, you know, just trying to sell it and that kind of thing? And yeah, that's true. But like, I started showing, you know, the preview page to people who weren't in comics. Like my girlfriend who works in TV and film, and she's a color designer. She worked on Guillermo del Toro's Pinocchio movie, lovely movie, by the way. So she knows color very, very well, you know, and I was like, do you look at these colors by, you know, by Heather? And she's like, wow. Yeah. And when she says, wow, I'm like, okay, something's happening here. And then I showed some other people that weren't like, you know, some friends of mine who worked at other comic book companies, and they were like, that's really interesting. You know, first of all, they're like, that looks really, really good. And so like, you know, I know there's an element to like social media where like, you know, there's a hype machine that has to be built and stuff like that, you know, but I kind of went to people that I was closest to say like, okay, what do you guys think? And once I got not confirmation, but once I sort of got affirmation from them, you know, I actually went on that Reddit thread that Christian proposed. I'm like, okay. And then like, I sort of took that, and then I started reading more of the comments that people were making. I'm like, okay, all right, I think maybe we're onto something here. Not that I ever doubted it. Like when Christian first came to me and he showed me Heather's, he's like thinking of using Heather more as a colorist, and I saw her colors. Like it took me a minute to wrap my head around it. He said he wanted to do something more experimental. And most of the colors that I've worked with, you know, they see that I do realistic stuff basically, and they approach it from realism in terms of color. And the first colorist I worked with was Dave Stewart. Like, welcome to comics, right? I mean, come on. And he colored most of everything that I have done. And then I got to work with Lee Lowridge and Luis NCT and Dan Brown, and all of those colorists are terrific. And I'm lucky to work with them. They all approached it kind of the same way, and kind of more realism. And then when I saw Heather's stuff, I'm like, wow. And then I thought, I didn't quite know what to think at first. I thought Christian Ward is smarter than I am, and he's also really good at what he does. So be open and go with it. And then once I started like seeing Heather's colors come in through like the whole first issue, I was like, okay, there we go, we got it now. It's sort of like I had to break my brain apart and then put it back together again. And then I went back to Twitter again to see what people were saying, and Instagram to see what people were saying. They're like, this is so different. That's the thing I keep hearing. This is like Jeremy Holt, who is a friend of ours and who gave us a nice little pull quote, said that like they've actually reinvented the wheel. I'm like, okay, and you can thank Christian's vision and Heather's colors for that too, you know. And so then I started thinking like, okay, that stuff is actually kind of genuine. When I realized what made it special, what I think makes it special, then I started like, you know, kind of buying into the buzz a little bit more. That's a really long way of saying, yeah, it's really cool what's happening.
Yeah, no, the hype. No, the hype has been like insane. Like I've seen it all over Twitter, and I was like, oh man, I'd love to get to both you. And you guys, you absolutely could not have been kind of just. So I'd have to thank you both there. But you guys were so kind to both of you, and just like helped me set up the time. And like Declan did the cover on as well, and like he did have to bite me in the neck for reference, and it was weird. Like I was sleeping, and I wake up, and he just bit me on the neck and ran away. So I'll give you guys a pull quote. It was worth getting bit by Declan Shalvey. That's how I was Bloodstained teeth. Yeah. So I mean, you guys, I assume that are going to trade paperback, because what convinced people? That's like I also gave I interviewed another guy from the We Ride Titans team, and I gave them a quote of, "This comic is worth 2 tins of beans." So I'm kind of the so yeah, you guys can use that. But no, absolutely, Christian. Let me ask you. Do you know how many issues you've planned out for this, or is that kind of a secret? Or
I mean, basically, it will be. We've got a number that we're aiming for. I mean, if we can, we'll go longer.
You have a finite ending in head. Do you know?
I do.
Yeah.
but it can be, it's kind of hard to talk about it without kind of giving stuff away. It can, we've got a few options. We can put that end further away if we need to. I mean, it's tricky with comics because you have to, even with the hype and everything, and I mean, I think you can't kind of come up with a story and be like, this is a 50 issue epic. You've got to be realistic and go, okay, this is what we're aiming for. But then you, in the back of your head, you're like, okay, but if we've got insane sales, this is what we'll do. I mean, there's Atticus's story, which will run a certain length, potentially longer if our numbers are crazy and we're like, okay, this is, people want more of this, we'll give them more. But I mean, I could see us almost approaching this in the same way that Ed and Sean do the criminal line. So it's kind of like the world and then different characters within that world. So it could be that we would do more story within the Bloodstained Teeth universe, but focus on the vamp first, but concentrate on different characters. But I mean, our goal is to, with Atticus, I mean, I've plotted all of Atticus's story.
Nice.
We're working on Patric literally today finished issue 5. So we know there's going to be 5 issues.
I have deadline
guaranteed.
Face, sorry.
because they're done. I'm working on issue 6. As soon as we're done with this, I'll hopefully finish it off. Just need to do a bit of polishing, so I'd hopefully get that done tonight. So we've got 2 arcs. We know that.
Nice.
We'll see.
Sure. I know Jeff would just take over the whole series, and it'll just be just about Jeff. I don't know anything about Jeff. Let it be known, but just the vampire with the gall to be named Jeff.
Yeah,
storytelling.
I like Jeff.
That is
like
storytelling. He's going to be.
I think people are going to respond to Jeff. You see him in.
He's going to be my new favorite.
Yeah.
Jeff goes to the dentist.
Yeah,
it's going to be awesome.
But you just finished issue 5, Patrick.
Yeah, technically, I mean, I've we sort of had to jump back and forth between some things, but like, yeah, I just wrapped up the 5th issue, and there's a like I said, we have some plans that that are sort of like making it so we're kind of doing things in a different order.
What he's awkwardly walking around is the fact that issue 4 is going to be an interesting little thing. An interesting little,
the garlic bread solo spin-off issue.
An interesting little thing. We do something quite cool in issue 4, and it makes sense. Garlic bread.
But you're dodging the fact that it's about garlic bread. So if you could just go back to the fact that it's about garlic bread, that's important.
Yeah. So we're going to do something. We're doing something different for issue 4, but essentially, Patric's done 5 issues. The end of the arc's done. He doesn't. That's it now. And then he's working on issue 6 soonish. But the point is, we are well ahead. I mean, everyone worries with Crack Around books about lateness, and we can absolutely say, we are ahead. We've been working on this for quite some time now to make sure that no one is going to have to wait for the next part of Atticus Sloane. It's always going to be there waiting for you.
Perfect. And so, is it too early for you guys to get comps of issue 1 yet? I'd imagine.
Oh yeah.
So, are you guys excited to finally get to hold that in your hands?
Labor.
It's really weird seeing like the comic in your hands, because it's totally different than when you started from it. Like our first conversation Christian had is like, everybody brings their own thing to this project, and in the end it becomes a lot different than what you brought to it, of course. And like I spent hours, just bent over these pages like Golem, listening to my Lady Gaga.
My precious, you guys, you hold your page in the air.
Oh, boy. Speaking of reference, like I just spend so much. I'm so close to these things. Like I'm literally inches from my face for hours at a time from these things, and they become so precious and weird, And then I just send them off, and then Heather does her thing, and then Haas does his thing. And then it gets sent off to a void, and it comes back like this weird birthday cake of things that doesn't look anything like what you started with. And then I'm always but then the cool thing about that is that's when you're a comic book artist, is that like when you have the thing, the artifact that you made that everybody gets to see, is like, that's when you know, that's when I know, I can only speak for myself, that you've actually done something that you get to share with other people. That's when it becomes like worldly, and that's when it becomes bigger than yourself. You know, it's so easy for me to stay in my head, you know, in a very tiny room all day, you know, drawing these pages and just hoping that, you know, no one will notice that I screwed up that person's face, or, you know, that I forgot to, like, you know, put the same shoes on that one character or whatever, you know, and then no one notices all that weird stuff in my head. They just notice it's a cool looking comic. And that book that we have right there, I mean, like, that's, I mean, I can't remember the last time I looked forward to seeing a comic the most, honestly. So
yeah, exactly. And that doesn't sound half bad. But so let me ask you this, like this question obviously applies to both of you, but Christian, do you think that this is like probably the most personal comic you've done? Because I imagine, like, as great as it is to work on something like Black Bolt, you know, Black Bolt's not yours. He's and like same for you, maybe, you know, with like Hellboy. It's like, yeah, it's great to work on a character like Hellboy or Abe Sapien, but you know, they're not created by, you know, me. So Christian, do you think this is the most personal comic you've ever gotten to do?
100%.
I mean,
yeah, 100%. I mean, I've been. I mean, I came to comics in a slightly different route to Patrick. I mean, all my comics to begin with were correct around all of them. So I did Olympus at Image. Don't talk about, it's rubbish. Yeah.
No.
Everything about it's terrible. Apart from the letters are all right, but everything else is rubbish.
You just can't look back on it like, no one even.
No, but even the story's terrible. Sorry, but it is. So there's that, and then I did Infinite Vacation again at Image, with Nick Spencer, and then Odyssey, which was the big thing with Matt. And it's weird because you kind of, when you're working on and like Image was kind of like, it wasn't as, I mean, obviously they had Saga, but it wasn't quite it kind of has become, particularly kind of very recently. So you kind of think, am I? It feels like you're shouting into a void a little bit. And you know, you do conventions and people come and you get something, you know, and you obviously, your books connect with people and they love it, and that's amazing, and it can give it soul food to carry on. But you always kind of think, am I on the right track? Am I doing okay? And sometimes it's weird, and I don't necessarily feel like this now, but I remember when I got offered Black Bolt, as you mentioned, you confuse it with this idea that, oh, I've made it now.
Yeah.
Now that Marvel want me to draw their counter, I've made it. And and it was great. It was a great book. Saladin was brilliant to work with. We remained friends. And it's you know, we won an Eisner for it. Fantastic book. I was really proud of it.
Is that an actual Eisner Award? Do they give out Eisner Awards?
Yeah, I've got 3.
I thought it was just something, you know,
3.
I'm an Eisner Award. I didn't know you got a physical trophy.
Yeah,
that's amazing.
I've got 3.
I've got 3. Yeah. I've got 3 of them.
I'd like to take a minute to thank everyone who ever hated on me, because I'm here now.
It's my baby.
I'm going to screenshot this saying, you polishing your Eisners.
So that's the Black Bolt.
Yeah.
I have a mummy that I found at a garage sale.
I have a strawberry water I got today from Tesco. Yeah. So, you know, they're all of equal importance.
You know, it's not important. I don't mean, I just
I wipe my nose with this Eisner. This one I use as tissue. I don't even use this one. You just throw it out away.
Yeah.
I didn't know they gave out actual little Eisner.
And they're really heavy, weirdly.
Really?
Yeah, they're really heavy. Like one of them fell off and it really bashed it up, like the weight of it. So anyway, so you kind of think, okay, doing Marvel and you know, and I've been lucky enough to sort of get into DC, and I'm a big DC fan, so that's been great, and it's fantastic, you know, to do, you know, to draw Batman. Amazing. That's literally a life dream.
Yeah.
And so the fanboy in you is you know, you're high-fiving your old self. I've made it. But it's exciting, but it's not personal. And I think the word you use is perfect. It's not personal. You know, it's not yours. You're not, you know, you can do the best work you can. You want to do the best work, and you want to You want to honor those characters and the legacy that they have and the people that come before them and the fans. You want to, you want to honor that, but you put your effort in, but you don't necessarily put yourself in.
Yeah.
And with Create Our Own, you put yourself in. You do something personal. I mean, particularly with Bloodstained Teeth. I mean, without, it's a comic. It's a comic about vampires, and it's got action in it. It's got gore in it. It's got thrills in it.
Yeah.
And its goal is to entertain. But there's a part of it where you can have a conversation about things that are important to you, things that matter to you, and because it's your book. Me and Patric own this. I have to keep reminding him that he's the co-creator. You're the co-creator. Because it's your book, it's your love letter, it's your communication about whatever you want it to be.
Yeah.
And what's really lovely about this is to find people like yourself who are excited about it. That's more meaningful than working on Batman or Black Bolt or Thor. As cool as they are, and I will always want to work with those characters because it's cool. We're comic book artists. We want to do stuff like that. It's what's fun about it. But it feels really nice to be telling a personal story about garlic bread.
You're gonna make me start crying in a minute if you keep on bringing up garlic bread.
Do you want? I mean, what is it? Do you want the baguettes? Or do you want the slices?
That's the,
and then when you think about it, it's a the slices or the big.
It's human greed at its core.
Don't bring the dough balls in, the garlic balls.
Like the garlic balls. There you go. That's it. Sorry, you have me going in a minute now. But Patric, I imagine it's obviously the same for you because, like you said, this is your first creator-owned series, and Christian, you've obviously done creator-owned series for you, but like Patric, you must be tenfold because this is like your first creator-owned series. So, would you say it's the most personal project you've gotten to do as well, Patric?
Well, it's interesting. Like I started out doing like licensed things in the Hellboy universe, and with Ape Sapien, I because I knew that like I only got to do a certain part of all of those stories with Aliens, with Serenity, and with Joe Golem. I knew that like that I had to sort of make it personal to myself. In order for me to like not that it was difficult to do because like every artist when they draw something, it's always a portrait of themselves, no matter if they're drawing themselves or not. And but like I really not that I needed any extra motivation, but like I really think like for me, some of my issue is that I get too connected too quickly to things, and it's hard for me to let it go. And so like I've been kind of doing that with since I started working as like okay, like adding that pathos to Ape Sapien, and that sense of loss to the Serenity comic, and the person in Derek Russell in the Alien series, how he's alone and that kind of thing. And so that's kind of I've sort of when I start a comic, I sort of start from like a personal standpoint. I'm like, okay, how can I relate to this character, and in order for me to actually depict him, or depict them or whatever. And so this one, like it's actually it is like with the rest of comics, it is very personal, but also like it's sort of for me weirdly sort of I use this analogy a lot with Christian, is like it's weirdly now more like part of a jazz quartet where like I know it's not just about me now. I know like I've been doing like a Joe Golem, like I posed for Joe Golem, as the main character, just because, because I'm a huge strapping young man and a private detective, obviously, but like for me, it's like it's sort of it's personal, but I also know it's now ours as a group, and so it's kind of I wouldn't say it's the opposite of what Christian said. I would say like it's different because I know that like it sort of feels like when John Coltrane did My Favorite Things, you can hear the four musicians kind of adding their own thing. Yeah, it's John Coltrane's band, but when they get done with it, they have, you know, a cover of my favorite things is something you've never heard before. And I feel like I'm part of that, but also like I know I'm part of a bigger whole. You know, I feel more connected to a bigger whole. You know, I don't just gotta send these pages off into into where someone gets colored, until it gets colored, and you know, and you know, my name is maybe on the cover somewhere. I feel like I'm more connected to a group of people with this one, if that makes any sense.
Yeah,
you know, in addition to being, you know, having being very personal, but like I feel like I'm more connected to our team than I ever have been with any other project. So
yeah, definitely. I think that definitely comes true in like a series like this. Just like I think it comes through most Image series. But when there's a creator-owned book, there's always a certain like, you know, it's not the team you were kind of put into. It's the team that you kind of arranged, and you all work together.
yeah,
And I think you can absolutely see that there. And so, Christian, let me just tell you, you're the most adorable dog in the world. He's so good. Is he asleep?
Can you hear him snoring?
no, it'd be great. I was about to say it's so impressive.
Oh, stop now.
It's you put the camera on him. He's a strategic dog.
He's opened his eyes. I think his eyes open.
I love the fact, like you woke. He was awake at the start of the video, and we put him to sleep. We talked. It must have been so, but he just went to bed immediately. He's such a
it's his favorite place to come, isn't it? Oh, you're a good boy.
That's I'm going to title this video "Special Appearance by Christian Ward's Dog."
Yeah.
I mean, as great as it was to have you guys on, it's like, does that really matter? But no, absolutely. We've been chatting for just about over an hour. So before we finish up, guys, are you over? Christian, are you over on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anywhere. What's your app?
Or both of them, and it's CJ Ward Art.
Brilliant. And so, Patrick, are you on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram?
I'm no longer on Facebook for reasons, but I am on Twitter and Instagram. And I believe I have the same handle for both Twitter and Instagram. It's Patric _ Reynolds, or Patrick, or if you just at Patrick.
That is your name.
Yeah. Well, because my name is, I don't spell my name properly. And that's my father misspelled it on the birth certificate, and that's the only reason why it is. It's my life began as a tragedy.
I kind of love it though, because it's so vampire-y, like Patrick without the
cape. That's totally why. I mean,
it was like you were, unfortunately, it was you were born to be the artist of a vampire comic. You know, that's essentially, that's what we can all only aspire for our children.
Oh boy, I actually have sometimes. I have to put a K on the end of it sometimes when I go out to a restaurant or something, like, because people say that name pronounces Patrice, and I'm like, and I don't want to like self-identify with that. I'm like, no, it's Patrick, you know. So like, and then, you know, whenever people like, I've had everybody I know make fun of my name. So like, just because, and I want to tell people, well, there was a Norwegian king in the 14th century. Like this. No, my father was just kind of slightly didn't know how to spell a basic name. That's what happened. So
I think it sounds so much cooler without the K. There's that gravitas to it. You know, Patrick Ward. But yeah, some people can check it out. Now, if only you guys had a new comic you could, you know, promote or talk about, but I guess we'll never really know. So yeah, we can wrap it up. But no, any new comics people can go pick up or that they should be interested in when it comes out?
There's a little comic that we should have mentioned called Bloodstained.
Oh, Dog by Declan Salvi, everyone. That comes out.
Do you know what? I've just read, he's just done, not to pick, you know, buy Bloodstained, of course, but I've just read that he's done a 10-page teaser promo that's going to be in the Image anthology that I've just read. It's amazing.
Nice. He must have gotten Stephen Mooney to do it for him if it's any good. So yeah, I'll wait for that. No, but absolutely. Of course, the comic itself, Bloodstained Teeth, comes from Image Comics. What date does it come out on?
April 27th, I believe.
April 27th. You booked
last Wednesday of April.
Luckily for you all, you can go pre-order it now from your local comic book store. It's as easy as going to your local comic book store, Bloodstained Teeth, and then just stealing it when they're not looking. No, of course, go pay for it. It's going to be a fantastic comic. But yeah, I was lucky enough to sit down. I'll talk to you guys a little bit off air. But guys, before we finish up, you can go check me out over on Twitter at SamboGizmo1. Please make sure to like and subscribe. And yeah, go just eat any garlic bread you can find. That's what you should take away from this video. Yeah, pick up Bloodstained Teeth. That's one thing. But as long as you've eaten some garlic bread, I know I've won that little battle inside me. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. As always, if you have the means, it's my absolute pleasure. Thank you, gents, both so much. You can go check me out on Twitter, like I said, at SamboGizmo. Please make sure to like and subscribe. As always, if you have the means, please make sure to donate to the National Deaf Children's Society. It would be much appreciated. But yeah, if you do have the means. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. And yeah, go pick up Bloodstained Tea from your local comic book store.